What's up, guys? Welcome to another week at home. I'm excited to continue diving into our series on reckless romance in all of our conversations tonight. This past Sunday, we dove into a few stories of Elijah, learning about what to do when our love tank runs out. I believe that as believers, we're called to be a people of love, a people who represent the love of God everywhere we go. At times, though, it seems unrealistic to expect that of ourselves when every area of our life tends to drain our love tanks. From work situations to home situations, all of life calls for us to give every ounce of love, sometimes leaving us feeling empty and dry. We looked at 1 Kings 16 and 17, where Israel finds itself in a season of dryness and drought. But like Israel, there's more often than not a reason behind our love tanks being dried up. For Israel, 1 Kings 16 says that King Ahab was one of Israel's most disobedient kings, constantly finding ways to provoke God. The Bible says that he not only disobeyed and ignored God's commands, but he married a woman who worshiped the false god Baal. And he created items and places of worship for Baal. And in response, God commanded Elijah to tell Ahab that he was going to cause a drought in the land. Often, we can find ourselves with our love tanks dried up because we probably have been spending our love where we shouldn't, investing and entertaining relationships that only ever drain us of love with no return. And sometimes we can find ourselves like Ahab, turning to those relationships into our Baal, expecting them to fill our love tanks. 1 John 4:18 says that perfect love casts out fear. All of the relationships that have turned into a Baal in our life are often there not necessarily to cast out our fear or insecurities, but are often there to cope with them. And instead of allowing love to cast out fear, we cope with our fear, not knowing that this drains us even more of the love that we desire. You see, Ecclesiastes 3 says that God set man's heart for eternity, which means that anything short of eternal will never satisfy the heart of man. It's not just any love, but a perfect love that casts out fear, and a perfect love that can satisfy the heart of man. And for us to place that responsibility on the people in our relationships will only ever cause dysfunction and dissatisfaction. You see, it's so important that we deal with these areas of our life that blocks us from experiencing anything short of the love of God. And I'm not saying that the love of your spouse or your family or your friend can't fill your love tank, but we cannot expect finite beings to do what only an infinite God can. Elijah not only needed to tell King Ahab of the drought caused by the ignorance toward God, but he also needed to confront Ahab. The Bible says that Elijah challenges Ahab and his false god Baal. So Ahab took all of his Baal worshipers to summon Baal to receive an offering they prepared for him. And after a full day of ritual, Baal never showed up. Elijah then, with his servants, prepares his offering before God, drenches it with water, and asks God to let it be known that he is God for all of those who have turned from him. The Bible then says that the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the offering, the altar, and all of the water. And the people who saw began to worship the Lord. It's so important that we confront the areas of our lives that blocks our hearts from being filled by what we need most, the love of the Father. There is no relationship, no ritual, no alternative to what only God can do for our need. What's really cool about this story of Elijah is that after he confronts Ahab, the drought ends. Even when all the areas of our life dry us of our love, God promises that he will never, ever leave us dry. He will multiply the little. The drought will end, but we only need to allow God to fill our hearts with the perfect love that can only come from him. At home tonight, let's have a conversation about what tends to block our love tanks from being filled by God's perfect love. And let's figure out together how we can help each other confront this blockage so that we can receive the romance that we long for most, God's reckless romance. Be blessed.